Hey, we are back with Monzazu, the Demon Lord. He's looking pretty good so far. Um, Probably about time to start finishing up things. Last time we worked on all these bones on the wings. Those are looking pretty good, but you can see the highlights are still really chunky because we haven't reworked that. The horns could use a little bit more work too. Um, I went over the gold with Nuclear Sunrise speed paint, and that really warmed it up. But now I want to hit this with some more less saturated colors for the highlights. I need to come back in here and rework some of the skulls, which are still chunky. Obviously, I need to do a bunch of work on the face. I've got to do a bunch of work on the skin, weapons. Let's see what else. We've got these little black pock marks for texture that are up here that I need to bring in down here. Feel like I should probably go about cleaning up some of the edges and the wings here. That's going to be really tricky, and I'm not confident in that. um, yeah, so lots to do yet. Whoops. Probably should be a little bit of work that goes into these ankle metal pieces here, but probably a very light bit of this gray here. So I think I'm gonna work on this sword. Could really use some help. I'm gonna make a glaze. I'm gonna make a nice black glaze that I can apply repeatedly and stuff. So I can use that again on the little pock marks and stuff on his lower half. Just gonna do a simple 1-to-1 with my special medium, glaring medium. I'm gonna use my usual color shaper to mix that up. Pardon me. Just gonna use my big brush to start glazing this in here. However, I feel like it go, I guess. My problem with this sword is it has very diffuse um, sculpture lines. It's very unclear where the planes are on this thing, so it's hard to highlight based on plane changes. Paint rather. Probably gonna hit this with the airbrush here in a moment too to try to start the process of seeing how this is going to work out. Okay, I'm going to switch to the other side to let that dry a little longer while I do something else. And as usual, I'm just using a moist brush to blend the edges of these glaze layers into smoothness. I'm going to hit this with my airbrush again just to make sure that it's stabilized a little bit before I go screwing around and possibly touching it. Okay, now back on the other side, I'm going to kind of keep doing the same thing. Again, lots of layers. That'll help keep it nice and smooth. The reason why I keep using the airbrush like this is because um, the paints, especially when they're dark, they're a lot harder to see what they're going to look like when they're wet. So you have to dry them down in order to find out like how dark you're actually getting. And that's basically because things look darker when they're wet or shiny. And so kind of have to keep applying fresh layers to get all the way down to the darkness you want to achieve with this kind of thing. You may even have to get some black out with some like more glossy finish. Um, Possibly just like a 1-to-1 water glaze with this black, just to make sure that I'm getting as dark of a finish on it as I can. Because when you work with like paints that are this dark, the finish makes a huge difference on how dark the paint looks on the model. So a glossier paint will look darker than a matte paint. Looking pretty cool though. I'm gonna get myself a little bit of black and a little bit of water and do a little bit of a water glaze just to see if I can darken those bits a little bit more than they're already at. They look pretty dark right now, but see, I suppose. Now this is just water, so I have to work quick here. Because the water actually dries faster than the medium. So that means if you make a glaze with water, that glaze is going to dry faster than it would if you had not added water. Counterintuitive, but the water evaporates faster than anything else, so that's how it works. Especially when you're dealing with really thin paint or a very small amount of paint. Yeah, we didn't get a huge amount darker there. I think we're about maximum black on the backside here. Okay, so I think I'm gonna go to dark neutral gray next, and I'll start bringing up the parts that I want to bring up here. Deep gray seems pretty darn close, so I think I'm actually just going to switch to that. Again, I'm pretty tired of using the Pro Acryl bottles, so might as well try to use alternatives when I can. Whoa. A lot. So I put some in my black a little bit, and I'm gonna do some clean and mix these two guys up and get something kind of in the middle. The nice thing about this silicone color shaper is that it doesn't absorb any paint. So you're not losing any of the paint that you mixed up very carefully. Just staying where it is. I'm kind of using this other bit here as a test case to check how dark or light this color is going to end up. Looks like it's going to go on there pretty bright, so that was coffee staining on the edges very quickly, so we're going to probably need a lot of the layers of that to smooth it all out. Applied a little bit of that black glaze to smooth out the edges of the gray again. I'm going to start working in some little hatching along the edge of the blade here to get a little bit of wear pattern. Give it a little bit more of an interesting texture. And now I'm going to go to the actual edge of the blade, start working on that. My goal is to make the entire edge of the blade almost entirely more bright than the flat of the blade, because that'll make the edge stand out and make it look nice and sharp. At least on the front side. I'm just using an extremely light glaze here to add just a little tiny bit of color. Smooth that back out, back side of the blade here. And I think this is probably as bright as the blade's going to go on that side. I think I'm going to grab some black and smooth this back out just a little bit. before moving back to the front side. And this is a glaze, so again, this is smoothing it out more. A lot of the trick of getting smooth blends is this push me, pull you type of thing that I'm doing here, where you add something and then remove it. Add some light in one place and then pull it back. And all those different little layers end up helping smooth the whole thing out. Yeah. If I want to go even darker, I might try the Warpaint Stabilizer for my glazes for the last few little bits, because that won't change the finish of the paint. This is the pure deep gray now. Unadulterated with any black. Should come out a little bit lighter than the gray that's already on here, but probably not quite as bright as the like bright little edges that are already on here. And once I'm done with this sword, I'll probably move to the mace and the axe, just because I have those colors available to me right now. Switch to a smaller, pointier brush so that I can get more precise application with this. The surface plane changes on this sword are so fine that there's no way I could ever edge highlight them with like the edge of my brush. So I have to just freehand it. In a lot of places here, I'm basically just making up where the plane changes are. Okay. Now I'm going to go up one more color value. I'm going to bust out the ash gray. And what I'm going to do is mix, 50-50 deep gray with ash gray here. And that's already pretty dilute because of how dilute the ash gray was. And I am reserving this as much as I can for the edge and the highlights and things like that. So starting to bring up that contrast on the rest of the against the rest of the blade. And then I have some pure ash gray that I can just grab right away and go in and do some of these really bright highlights here. See, my brush is starting to get pretty dry here. That looks pretty cool. Go ahead and edge highlight the front edge of the sword. Pretty good. I think I'm gonna do. I'm gonna use the 50/50 glaze here to do kind of a very thin, sketchy highlight along this line here. That will help it look nice and shiny. Just gonna take the dark glaze gray here and kind of smooth some stuff out on the back side so that it doesn't look quite so chunky. Looks like I'm gonna have to knock it back with the black again. Smooth it back out again. Back and forth, back and forth. Push me, pull you. But I'd say that sword is looking pretty gall dang cool now. Actually really like it. I'm very proud of that. Okay. Crown is really bothering me, so might as well work on that a bit here. Same set of colors, same material. Not the same texture though, so it's gonna be a little tricky. Like I'm getting a lot of rub off on the crown here too, so probably need to seal that once I have shined it up a bit. A very difficult secondary line in there. Probably just see it right there. There's no way to edge highlight it, but or rather to like use the side of the brush to edge highlight it. So I just have to freehand it. Whew. I'm gonna bring in a little bit of the black wash to kind of differentiate some bits here and outline some things. Clarify this, the design of this crown here. I try to use that fine brush as little as I can. I'm switching back to my bigger one in order to kind of smooth out the transition here with a little bit of black glaze. progressively lighter grays to work on the top eyelid here. Cats are fiercely battling in the background. Okay, the crown looks a lot better now. Okay, how about the axe? Let's work on the axe here. Okay, they're playing with a loud toy now, so you may hear weird trundling, grundling sounds in the background. Ferocious battle. We gave him some catnip this morning, and these two are very angry, feisty drunks, so um, now we've got battle cats. Now I'm drawing in those very fine pock marks with black. It may not help because I think this is already the extent of how dark this black will get. But see here in a moment. I'll dry it down and have a look. Okay. 1/4 of the axe pockmarked. Let's see if that worked. Survey says not at all. So that's as black as it's gonna black. So instead I need to bring up the edges of that. Okay. Bit by tiny, tiny bit. Be able to see how far up on the brush I have to choke in order to reach this part. Talked about that on this model in the past, how he's got such long protrusions. It makes it really hard to get in there and paint certain parts because like this entire sword arm is in the way for this axe basically. Unfortunately, the axe is sort of pointed directly at the light source. That makes it really hard because the whole axe is basically in shadow, except for the edges that are pointed directly at the light. You can definitely see the difference between that side now. One of my techniques for this kind of lighting is to try to get the model into the position so that like I'm kind of looking down the barrel of the light source. Like I can imagine the light is coming from my eye. And then that way I can paint what I see and not paint what I don't see. That makes it so that when I turn it from a different direction, that point of view is sort of baked into the lighting. That's a pretty simple and straightforward way to try to paint lighting into your model. Doesn't take a lot of thought. Sometimes you have to turn it to see exactly what you've got going on, though. It's starting to look pretty cool. All right, let's go for the last part of the axe and then call it. Sometimes I'm kind of cheating here by just doing like a side brush edge highlight type of operation. But as long as I do it in the direction of my eye line, then we should hit the right stuff. Okay. A couple minutes left. If I can get a little bit further. Okay. Wow. A pretty cool sword. I'm liking where that axe is headed. And the crown looks a lot better now than it did before. All right. Thanks for watching, everybody. See you next time. Peace.